Hi guys, welcome back to Kitchen Wargamers and welcome back to my kitchen. On this video we're going to discuss building rules. You have to bear with me as well, I'm just getting over a cold, so I might be a bit groggy or sound a bit out of it, but I'm here. So anyway, let's break it down first of all into the two different types of buildings we're going to come across more often than not. The first one is like ruins, a ruin building, and basically in game all this comes into play is it's like hardcover, gives a -2 to hit, and basically that's it for ruined buildings. All your troops will get hit and all your troops can fire out, so if you're saying you're firing out the front way, all the troops fire out the front way, it doesn't matter where they are. And what I usually do with ruins like this is I just square it off, so anybody within that square is in those ruins, and they all fire out either one way or another, but they do that all together. So that's basically ruins. Okay, just move this out of the way. Right, let's get into the nitty-gritty then. I've been reading up on the rules. Like you've seen in game, all we've been doing with buildings is it gives you hardcover, but there's a few more things obviously to it, and it's quite in-depth, quite big. What I'm going to do is as well, because we've a third type of building, sorry, is bunkers. So on this part we're going to concentrate on the main buildings, and then in part 2, which will be on this same video, so you don't have to wait for it, I'll talk a bit more in depth about bunkers and what happens with them, because obviously they're different to normal buildings. Excuse me, a bit of a sore throat still. So okay, what we'll do is we'll get a unit of American troops. There's only 5 models here just for space, but let's say it's a 10-man unit. So the order dice comes out, and I want to get my troops into, say, this building here. So what I have to do is, and what we never realised was, we used to put troops on like advance, so they can advance into the building, but that's not the way it works. To get troops into a building, you must give them, if I find it on the dice, the run order. So it must be a run order to get into a building. And then what you do is you measure out to make sure the troops can get up. Now all the troops in the unit have to be within 1 inch of the building. Okay, so say let's, for instance, we move these up, and they're all within 1 inch of the building. Okay, question here, as you can see, a bit of a scenario. They've come up to the side of the building with 1 inch, so can they get in? No. And the reason why, one guy out of this unit has to be within 1 inch of an opening. Now we used to always be the door, but it's any opening. So say for instance this guy here is within 1 inch, so, and all the others were in 1 inch of the building, but because he's 1 inch of the doorway, everyone can get in. So then you just remove the troops and they're in the building. Now what you can do with these buildings is open the roof, and then what you can do is put the troops inside. Now troops always enter on the ground floor, and that's where they stay till later on, but we'll come across that a bit later. So these specific buildings haven't got floors, but if they did, obviously you got the ground floor and then the next floor up, and some buildings are even bigger going up and up, but we'll cover how you come across them as we go on. Okay, like I say, everyone's got to be within, can you get that on camera? Yeah, everyone's got to be within 1 inch of the building, but one guy has to be within any opening. So even at the window, they can all get in. So any opening there is. Okay, so my troops are now in the building. So what I want to do now is I want to move up a floor. So obviously my next turn, the dice comes out. Now to go up a floor, you have to give them advance. So they advance up 1 floor. Now if you give them a run order in the building, they can go up 2 floors, or vice versa. They can go down 2 floors on a run, or on advance they can go down 1. So I want these guys to go up to the next floor, so I'll put them on advance. Now they can advance up to that top floor, and because they've advanced, they can now fire out of the building. We'll come to that in the next one. Okay, so let's give them a full fire order. This is the next turn, by the way. They've had no other targets before, so on this turn the dice comes out again and they get a fire order. Now what can happen on the fire order is, say they're on the top floor here, or I'll come to this bigger building in a sec, say they're on the top floor. So what they can do is, within the building, you don't have to point them directly to a window or an opening. As long as they're on that floor, they can do what's next, and that is up to 2 men can fire out of each window. So these 2 windows in front, I can have 4 men firing out. So it's a 10-man unit, and out of those 10 men, 4 men can fire out of that. Okay. If there's a side, obviously they cannot fire out of the side. So let's just change to this building. Right, as you can see, this building has got multiple windows, and the windows on this building actually go all the way round. So what you can see here is the same on the other side, and what you can see here is the same on the other side. So on the fire order, what I can do now, I've got 10 men. I can have 2, 4, 6 men shooting out. Now, because the windows are all around the building, what I can do is fire 2 men out of each, up to 2 men out of each window. So I could do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now, if you're doing like this, firing at each window, what you've got to remember is these 4 men firing out of this window can fire at a target. Say that there's targets around the building like this. So the guys on this side can fire at these troops, and the guys on this side can fire at those troops. Now, if there's guys on the other side of the buildings and you had enough men, you could fire at 4 different targets, basically. So that's something to remember, but it's only 2 per window or opening, and they can only fire within the arc of the building. So say, going out 45 degrees from each side. So yeah, that's a good thing to know as well, because what we used to do was they had to fire at the same target, but as I've read into the rules, you can fire, like I've said, from each side of the building. Okay, so we've done run to get into the building, or up a floor, up to 2 floors. Advance is to move up a floor and fire. The fire order is basically just fire as it normally is, but you can fire out of 2 men per opening, and you can fire out of different sides of the building at different targets. A down order basically is to put your men down. So if they're getting fired at, they can go down in the building, and that makes it a -2 again. Any troops in the building obviously get -2 for the hard cover. However, as I'll go later on, when I bring tanks in and different weapons, we can see how that can change. So you're in the building, you go down, and basically that's a 4+4 to hit you. So already you're into, people need double 6s to actually hit you. And again, ambush, you can put your troops on ambush in the building, and like I say, they can fire from any of the openings again, just as normal. Okay, so that's your troops in the building. Right, now let's say these Americans are outside and there's Germans in that building. What I want to do is set a run order so I can charge into close combat. Right, the way it works in buildings is, obviously, if there's troops on the ground floor, I can go into close combat. If they're on the top floor, I can't, but I can run into the ground floor, and then there's close combat in the building. Let's talk about from outside first. So these troops are given a run order. So as long as they can get up to openings, they can fight through the openings, and the troops inside can obviously fight back. But it's like if you're fighting behind hard cover, or like a wall or a hedge or something like that, the same applies again. So both sides fight at the same time, and that's how you resolve your close combat, from obviously attacking outside to the in. Right, if you had troops in the building and there was a unit outside, what you can do is give them a run order, excuse me, to run out the building and get into close combat with the troops on the outside. So again, so obviously, sorry, I didn't mention, if you're within 6 inches, just like normal combat, you cannot return fire. If they're further away than 6 inches, you can return fire before they get into close combat with you, and the same again for the troops from outside. Okay, so these have gone into combat. They fight this unit and they win that combat. Now, as you know, after you win a combat, you can do a reorganization. So you roll a d6. It's not on camera. It's come out a 6, and so normally you can move 6 inches wherever you want. However, you can't regroup back into the building because you need a run order. So you've won your combat, you're reallocating these troops to where they want to go, but they cannot go back into the building. So you can move up or anywhere you want, but not back into the building. That'll have to be on their next turn to get a run order to go back into the building. Okay, sorry, fighting troops on the inside of the building, because you're already close up and you've won that combat, you can move in. That's the only time you can move in, is when you win a combat, when you're attacking from the outside to people on the inside. But the other way around, when you're attacking people on the outside from the inside, you can't regroup into the building. Okay, so close combat into a building then. The Germans are on the top floor, the Americans have moved into the ground floor. Now what it does is the same again, a run order, and you can charge up to the troops in the top floor, or if it's the other way around, charging down to the troops on the ground floor. Again, because you're within 6 inches, nobody can return fire, and the combats are fought simultaneously again. As far as I know, I haven't seen any difference to that at the moment. Like I say, I've just given these rules a rundown this morning, been reading through them, and also how we've been playing in game as well. So if that's wrong, guys, leave a comment in below. And again, anything else I've probably got a bit wrong, leave your comments, and yeah, that's fine. Okay, so I think that's pretty much covered troops in buildings. I've made some notes, I'll just double check that. I'm just reading through, so you've covered everything. Okay, one other thing as well. If it's a flat roof and your men are on the top floor of the flat roof, as I said, inside you can have 2 men per opening. Because flat roofs are open, basically you can have up to 5 troops firing from one side of the building. So you could have 5 firing from the flat roof here at this side, or 5 from there. And again, you can split your firers. So if you had a unit of 10 men, you could have 5 firing from this side at a target, or 5 firing from that side to a different target. So it's the same again, but you've got more troops firing from a side of the building. Okay, setting up the game. If the building was in your deployment zone, and it must be fully in your deployment zone, you can deploy troops anywhere in that building from the get-go, from your deployment. So that's one thing to bear in mind as well. If the building's partially in, or just in your deployment zone, you cannot do that, because obviously before the battle, the troops have gone in and set themselves up. Okay, one more thing about buildings. As you can see, there's no windows on this side. So if your troops have set up during the deployment phase of the game, and the building's within your deployment zone, what your men can do is knock out a hole in the wall so they can shoot out of. Now if you do this, you have to put some kind of marker, or just explain to your enemy that your troops have made a hole here, so 2 men can fire out of that hole, which is something, if you've seen some of the early games, I think it's game 1 or 2, battle reports, because the building was blank, with no windows or openings, we didn't fire out of it. But now I've seen this, if you were to set up in there, you can punch a hole in at the start of the game, so you've got you know, a window of opportunity to fire 2 men out of there. Okay, right, that's about it for the troops. So let's see tanks. Now I'm going to use this one. Okay, so you've got a tank rumbling up. Now, obviously, you know, tanks can fire anti-tank weapons against tanks, or they can fire HE against troops. So I'm going to cover HE in general, but using the tanks as well. We'll do mortars and artillery just after this. Okay, so the tank rumbles up, and you can see an opening there. So he fires his HE shot through into the building. Now then, with the HE, sorry, I'm just reading something else because I'm falling over myself somewhere here. Okay, yeah, so you can fire at, through a gap in the door or window. However, if there was no gap or no way of seeing the enemy, the HE round could still try and smash through the wall. And basically what it does is, you say you're firing the unit in the top floor or firing the unit in the ground floor, and then you just fire and roll normally. Now with HE weapons, you get different stats. Like you've got the diameter of your blast marker as well. So you look on the chart, HE shots, and you can see that, say for instance, a 1-inch blast marker gives you +1 penetration, and it puts D2 pin markers. And also you can see hits versus targets in buildings. Now on the 1-inch it's a D3, 2 inches is a D6, 3 inch is 2D6, and a 4-inch is 3D6. So basically you roll to hit, you've hit the target, and you look at, say you've got a 1-inch HE shot, and that can hit D3 troops in that unit you're firing at. Or if you go like the bigger weapons, D3, you can hit 2D6 troops in that building. And you don't need, you know, as long as you can see the building, you can fire at it. It doesn't matter if there's a window there or not. The HE shot just smashes through. Okay, hope that's covered that. Also as well, heavy weapons, any heavy weapon that's got, so you go from like the heavy machine gun that's got a penetration of +1. Anything with a penetration value can still try and shoot the troops in the building. You don't need to see an opening. So that's one thing to bear in mind. If you've got like your tank here, it's got a 50 caliber heavy machine gun. You've fired your weapon at an enemy tank over there. You can still use this to fire into troops into a building as well. So yeah, it's just like normal. You just roll to hit and then roll to wound as well. Okay, right, HE again. Let's say, for instance, this scenario, you've got some troops just outside the building and you've got troops in the building. Now, my tank fires his HE shot at those troops there. Let's just say the 1-inch template. If that 1-inch template hits the building, or if it's a bigger one, it hits the troops and partially the building, it doesn't affect anybody inside, because the shot's been made at these. That's where the shell hits, and the template is like the splash radius of shrapnel and things like that. So the building would protect the guys inside. So it doesn't matter where this lands. If that's your target, that's the ones that get hit, not the troops inside. Okay, right. Indirect HE weapons on a building. Right, because the shot comes in from the top, what you do is you roll to hit as normal. Say it's like a heavy mortar. So you roll a 6, so you hit the building. Now the shot goes in, and because it's the shell itself could actually travel all the way down to the bottom of the building before it explodes. Excuse me, sorry, my throat. So the way this works is, let's just open it up. Say you got troops on the top floor and you've got a unit on the bottom floor as well. By the way, in these buildings as well, you can't have 2 units on the same floor unless it was a great big like factory type of building. So you couldn't have a spotter and a unit of troops like we've done on the same floor. It's got to be one unit or another. Okay, unless it's very big buildings and you can partition it up. So you'd have a wall running down the middle. So in that side of the building could be one unit and that side of the building could be the other. And the reason for that is if the building's hit, you've got one guy on his own, he could like take 2d6 wounds against him and that unit, but you're firing at a unit basically on a floor. So that's why you can't do that. So if you be careful where you put your spotter, like I'll have to do next time, because we used to have them on the same floor. And what we did was say, I'm firing that unit, but it hits the floors, the HE. So the HE shot comes down, I want to hit the troops on the top, but the shot might go straight down to the next floor. So what you do is you roll a d6. On a 1, 2 or 3, the shell goes down to the next floor. On a 4, 5 or 6, it explodes on that floor. So as you go down, say it's a 1, 2 or 3, it goes down to the next floor. You roll again, 4, 5 or 6, it blows up on that floor. If not, it goes down to the next and all the way down to the ground floor. Now when it hits the ground floor, that's where it hits. You don't need to roll again, that explodes. Okay, hope that's covered that. Like I say, there's quite long-winded the rules on here. Okay, just to go through as well, if you're hitting where there's no windows with HE, the troops inside still get a +2 to hit them because it's still hard cover. Also as well, if you've got like Panzerfausts and there's an enemy tank here, when you fire, if this tank is within 12 inches, you hit the top armour because obviously the shot's coming down from the top. So that's something else to remember. So it's within 12 inches, you hit the top armour. If it's more than 12 inches, you just hit either the side armour or the front armour, depending, you know, how the tank is. Sorry, just still looking for the notes. Hope you can bear with me with all this. Okay, units as well hit inside a building. When you hit them troops in the building, they get a +1 to their damage also because of all the cover and you know, the thickness of the building and stuff like that. So to hit a unit in a building, they get a +2 for being in hard cover. So when you roll to wound, say like a veteran troop, you wounded them on a 5, they get +1. So you are hitting them on a +1, so you're hitting them, wounding them on a 6. So veteran units, normally it's a 5, but in the building it's a 6. However, HE weapons, they ignore all that type of cover. The HE comes in from the top, the indirect, sorry. It ignores, say you've got a gun shield in there, or like I've just said, that +1 to wound them, all that gets ignored with HEs, because obviously they're going through the roof and they're just blowing out that whole floor. So anything like that, any modifiers don't get added to indirect HE. Okay, I think that pretty much rounds it up for this. We're going to bunkers next, and I'm also going to cover flamethrowers. So basically, you need a 6 to get into a building. Once in the building, you can advance up 1 floor, or you can run up 2 floors, and vice versa. Only 2 men can shoot out of an opening, and enemy units shooting can still hit anybody in the building as well. It's not only 2 men, because you're firing into there. HE shots can fire at blank opening. Small arms fire, sorry, you've got to see an opening to shoot at the units inside. So if you just see that and you've got a machine gun rifle or anything like that, you can't do anything at them. It's got to be a heavy weapon. You can charge inside the building, upper floor or down the floor. If you charge out of a building and win a combat, you cannot regroup back into the building. To charge at a building, you've got to have at least one opening, so you fight together. It's not like the one who made the charge fights first. You both fight together because it's just like hardcover. I think that's pretty much it, guys. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go away, have a look at the bunker and the flamethrowers, and just have a look over my notes, just make sure I haven't missed anything. Sorry it's a bit here and there, but like I say, I'm still learning the rules myself, and having this cold doesn't help much either. I haven't got too much concentration anyway, but it's just making it a bit worse. So anything I've missed, guys, anything else you want to go over, leave a comment. I always read them. Anyway, I'll see you in part 2 of this video. I'll just go away and set up the next scenario with the bunkers. See you soon, guys. Hi guys, just noticed something I missed. HE weapons, like I say, they've got their own template, HE shots, and you can see what it is against buildings. So like a 2-inch template does D6 damage to the troops inside. But anything that has 2d6 or more, so like the 3-inch and the 4-inch templates, if you're rolling to wound on those 2d6 and you roll 10 or more, the building is destroyed. It just collapses under the sheer blast of the shell. So if there's a unit in the top and a unit in the bottom, and you're firing like a 3 or 4-inch template and you roll 10 or more, the whole building's destroyed and the troops in it as well. Now this is something else to think about in game. If there's a building and you think it's strategic to the enemy, but there's no enemy troops in it, what you can do is still fire at it. So if you fire the 3 or 4-inch template and you roll 10 or more, you can destroy that building before troops get into it, so you can deny it to the enemy. And a destroyed building just turns it into like the ruins. So all it is then is a +2 to hard cover. That's it. So you could get rid of a good, to say like this building, loads of windows all the way around it, and you think if the enemy get there, they could really hold me up. So if you've got a weapon strong enough that's got a 3 or 4-inch template, boom, blow it out of the way and just leave a bunch of rubble there. So that's something else to think about, guys. All right, see you in the bunker one. Hi guys, welcome back to part 2. Just before I talk about bunkers and flamethrowers, there's a couple of things on my notes I missed off. Sorry about that. One is, if troops in a building are hit by a HE weapon, they can go down, and all that does is half the amount of hits taken rolling up. So if you took 3 hits, half of that rolled up would be they only take 2 hits, not the full 3. The other one was you can set up artillery pieces or anti-tank weapons in a building at the start of the game if that building is in your setup. But if they do, you have to name which window they're firing from, and that stays the whole game. They can't move out, they can't move around, so they're only just firing through that window or opening. Okay, the other one was any fixed weapons that are in a building as well. You must declare what opening they're firing from when you fire from them. Now if they change that, excuse me, my throat again. If they change that, they do it either on a run order, which is to move it completely, or an advanced order, which is to move its pivoting point. So it gets like a -1 to its hit. Okay, let's talk about, oh sorry, just before I go on. If the roofs of a building are stuck down, so you can't actually put any troops in it, what you've probably seen in some of my games is we leave one guy outside and we put a dice next to him to say what floor on. So this guy will be on the second floor, i.e. the top floor of this building, and the rest of his team are just put to one side. When you give him an order dice, that team in the building, you give it to the guy that's outside the building, just to keep track of that. But if you can, it's much better to have the roofs or floors taken out of a building so you can actually get the troops in there and see who's in there and what's left and stuff. But if you can't, just do that, that's fine. Okay, let's talk about bunkers. Now, unfortunately, bunkers, I haven't got any. So I'm just going to use this piece of scenery. So just imagine this is a square bunker. Just move that out of the way. And these are the troops inside the bunker. Okay, and this part here is a doorway. I'll talk about the bunkers first and then flamethrowers. And the reason I've waited till now for the flamethrowers is they are brilliant for taking out bunkers and buildings as well. So the bunker then. As I've said before with the buildings, you fire out of any opening, any window, any door, or any type of opening whatsoever. But with bunkers, as you know, they have a door to get in and out, and they have like little firing slits that are so just wide enough to get your rifle out or a weapon out of there. So if there isn't any firing slits, you cannot aim at the troops, even with HE weapons or indirect, because it's so thick that they won't get through there. So all weapons can only fire from or fire at slits in the bunker itself and not the doorway. Because normally a doorway walking into a bunker is like a little corridor there. So firing in or out of that, there's no effect. So it must be a firing slit to fire in or out. Okay. Sorry, I've got some notes from buildings here as well. I'll go through that later on. Okay, right. To fire at troops in a building, so you're firing from out these. I've had a fire order, they're firing at them. Normally in normal buildings you get a 2+ hard cover safe, but in buildings this goes up to a 3. Sorry, not a 3, it goes up to a 4. So to hit troops in a building, you're rolling on 6 and 6s to fire in at them. So yeah, they can be quite tough, bunkers and that. So yeah, and HE as well, like on a building, it goes down the top floor and all that kind of stuff, or it can fire through a side. They don't suffer any damage. So if you like fire a heavy mortar or a heavy howitzer or something, it hits the top, like on a normal building, you roll to see which floor you're hitting on. But you can't do it with bunkers because they're so, the armour's so thick on them that it can't get through. So you can't damage the troops inside. So what happens if you do hit with say like the 4 or 3-inch templates that can collapse a building? But you can do the same again with the bunkers. So if you're hitting something that rolls either 2d6 or 3d6, you add up just like you do as normal troops. But if you get a 10, you can collapse a building. But on bunkers, you need to roll a 12. So you roll to hit, you hit it, and they still take the pin markers as well, sorry. So you roll to hit against these troops in the building. Now you can't damage them, but you can put the pin markers on, or if it's HE, you can put so many on. Then, if you've got, like I say, the stuff that rolls to damage, either 2d6 or 3d6, which is usually the 3 or 4-inch blast markers, you roll again like you were wounding, but all you can do is get a double 6. So you roll, there we go, that's 8, that does nothing else further. But if you were to roll 12, you destroy the bunker. So as you see, troops in bunkers can be very, very hard to get rid of. And, you know, it's a good place to get good troops into a bunker, because your survivability is much better. The only things that can do anything on you is like HE, but all they do is put pins on you, unless they use the 3 or 4 inch template where they're all in 2 or 3 D6s to try and score 12 to destroy the bunker, and that's it really. So yeah, good bit of equipment. So let's talk about flamethrowers. I haven't actually got a flamethrower model, but basically what happens with flamethrowers, they can fire through any opening into a building, and like with bunkers as well, they can fire through any of the slits. It doesn't say about the doorways, but it does say any opening. So I'm not 100% sure on that. If you are, guys, pop a comment below, let me know if they can do that. Also, like I say, in buildings you get your hard cover +2, and the makes it harder to wound as well. You get +1 in your wound, so if you're veterans, I need a 6 to wound you instead of the 5. But flamethrowers ignore all that. You just go straight in, you roll your hit. Sorry, I need to look at something again. Sorry, I'm trying to remember all this. Yeah, they get no cover, no extra protection. And the flamethrowers, you roll to hit, basically it's D6 shots. So you roll a D6 and you get 3 guys. Now, to wound them, basically they've got a penetration of 3. So to wound a veteran, that 3 knocks their 5 down to 2. So you're wounding anybody you hit on 2s. Also, against the bunker, a flamethrower does the same thing like it does with buildings. So you roll, oh, there's the 6 there, so you get D6 hits, and then you roll them, you're hitting them on 2s basically, and that's 2 guys dead. But also what you can do with them, once you've made your rolls to hit and to wound, you roll again, and on a D6 roll of a 4, 5 or a 6, you set the building or bunker on fire. So yeah, and basically once a building's on fire, any troops that are in it who survived, they have to immediately disembark from the building, so they run out. And it's like when a transport vehicle's been hit, as far as I believe, if a transport vehicle's been hit, you roll a d6 to see how many people are hit. So I think, like again, if I'm wrong, guy, let us know in the comments below. So you roll a d6, and 4 more guys, as they've been leaving the building, have been caught on fire, and they roll to wound just like normal. If the veterans, you need 5s, and so on. But that building or that bunker then is basically destroyed, and it's just there as a burning wreck. So yeah, that's the power of flamethrowers and the power of bunkers. Sorry, just let me check on yeah, actually, sorry, I think the I can't find it now, but I'm sure I read that bazooka flamethrowers can't set a bunker on fire. They can with the buildings, but not with bunkers. So you just roll to hit and roll to wound, and you don't roll that extra d6 to see if you've burnt the bunker down. Like I say again, guys, let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments. Well, after all that, I hope that's helped you with the building rules. Once we're up and running doing battle reports again, obviously we'll come across the buildings a bit more and show this in action, which I think is the best way, is get down and see it actually in action, rather than just reading from the rule book. You know, you need to see it on the go. So I hope that's covered everything. If it hasn't, leave any comments. So yeah, that's that, guys. So thanks for watching, and like I say, I hope it's put a bit more light onto bunkers and buildings. So remember guys, to make it, paint it and play it, and see you again soon guys. Thanks a lot. Hi guys, just thought I'd add on to this video. I have found out that flamethrowers cannot set bunkers on fire. They can set buildings, but not bunkers. Okay, I thought I'd slip that in for you just to clear that up. All right, cheers guys, see you soon.